and a very good morning to you, and a warm welcome to Sports News this morning. I'm Olumide Macaulay. And we'll be giving you the headlines just now. We begin with Euro 2020. Switzerland beat world champions France on penalties to progress to a quarterfinal against Spain. Now, Spain are through to the UEFA Euro 2020 quarterfinals after a madcap extra time win against Croatia. Really madcap. From there to tennis. American Francis Tiafoe dumped third seed Stefanos Tsitsipas out of the Wimbledon's men's singles as the Greek became the first big casualty on day one of the tournament. Big casualty. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Get your cup of cha-cha, a cup of tea, whatever you prefer, water, as the case may be. But something to nibble on as well, because for the next 60 minutes, we'll be taking you through the world of sports, especially with emphasis on football and tennis. I'm sitting in for your regular host, Sissy and Taya. See you again shortly, guys. But first, let's start with the Wimbledon Open. Now, who'd have thought it that the third seed in the world will be beaten by the 57th seed in the world? Third seed being Stefanos Tsitsipas, the big Greek, beaten by Francis Tiafoe, the American. Now, Stefanos was dumped out of the Open by 6-4, 6-4, 6-3 win, as he became the first big casualty on the first day of the tournament that played on June the 28th on Monday. Tsitsipas played his first match since his French Open final defeat by Djokovic on June 13th. Also went out in the opening round on his last appearance as 7th seed in the grass court tournament in 2019. I'm sure he didn't want this to become a habit, but it happened. It happened again. He didn't want it to happen, but it happened again. Nonetheless, because of the aggressive play of the American Francis Tiafoe, who won 5-4 in the second set after Tsitsipas saved 2 break points and held his nerve when the Greek had 3 chances to break back. The American broke serve again at the start of the third set. He had 3 match points on Tsitsipas's serve to wrap things up in just over 2 hours. Now to discuss this match is our channel's TV correspondent in London, Austin Okonakpan, and sports analyst Shemilore Adeniko, who are going to be, okay, here we go. Hi, Shemilore, how's it going?
I'm good. How's it going? Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's good to have you on. It's good to have you on. How do you think that Stefanos Tsitsipas was feeling after that defeat? Because he couldn't have seen it coming, or did he?
I think what happened to him yesterday was complacency. This is the 3rd time in 4 attempts that he's gone out in the first round. Since his triumph at Roland Garros, even though he lost to Djokovic, he hasn't played on grass. And moving from clay to grass in tennis is one of the most difficult seasons, and you have to practice. What you saw with Francis, I think he went to Eastbourne, he went to Queens. There's opportunities for you to be able to get in some opens just before you go to Wimbledon. But Tsitsipas went with the complacency and went with him just not being very serious. This is things he admitted himself after speaking to the press after, saying that he should have trained. He should have trained harder to come into the grass season, because you can't be defensive on grass. You can't be defensive, especially within the open sets, when we saw with Andy Murray as well, him slipping and complaining about the conditions, because in the early rounds you gotta get the ground drier, because the more you play on in the dry, but when it's quite wet, the ball moves quite fast and you can't be defensive. You'll be exploited on grass. Yeah. But he was complacent, and that's why he went out again in the first
Playing
round.
at that level, that high, being the 3rd seed in the world, do you think complacency should be something he should be accused of? I mean, he said he admitted it himself.
These are that's what I'm saying. These are things that he's admitted himself. I wanted to just quickly get his quotes, but I didn't think we had time. Yeah. He said for sure the lack of matches was crucial today. He was thinking, these are things he said he should have gone to the Mallorca or Eastbourne as well to get some more training in that. Like I said earlier, he finds this transition the most difficult. And you knowing that as the 3rd seed, you can't take advantage of the fact that yes, you're the third seed, because everybody's hungry. Everyone that's underneath wants to break to the top 10.
Yeah.
He took advantage of that, and it was complacency. Yes, yeah, because
Okay.
going out 3 times in the first round is a big deal.
Okay, let's bring Austin in now. Austin, you know, what I know about Stefanos Tsitsipas, he wins a few, he loses a few, but he's kind of dogged long term. That's why he's now the third in the world. What do you think, how do you think he can redeem himself?
Sporting greetings, Olumide. It's good to see you.
Same here.
That's our world of sports for you, where impossible is nothing. Where if you blink, you start asking questions. Where also, as Shemilere said, if you show a little bit of complacency, you'll also be punished. This is how Tsitsipas started, you know, by stunning some of those big guys. So it's getting a little bit of what he has done to some players in the past. For Francis Tiafoe, I think this is a major win for him, particularly when you stump someone who is in fine form as Tsitsipas. So he's expected to do more. But going straight up to your question, how can he pick himself back up? He's a champ. He's someone who has been there, done that. Maybe he's yet to get over what happened to him at the French Open. You know, it can be that funny. There's a lot of mental play in sports, so maybe that's part of what affected him. He will pick himself back up because he's part of the guys who we have tipped to be part of the next gen of tennis stars, and he has actually shown it. So these things happen, So with individual sports, it happens. You could just, slump. But the good thing is to pick yourself back up. And that's the message I think he'll be saying to himself, that he needs to pick himself back up. It's an embarrassing way to exit a Grand Slam tournament where you've been tipped as favorites to go all the way. It can be demoralizing, but he has to pick himself back up. And I know Tsitsipas will pick himself back up because he's a quality tennis player.
Yes, Austin, and yes, it is good to see you. I haven't seen you personally in a minute, so how's London? Now, speaking of picking oneself back up, do you think Andy Murray did just that against Basilashvili in his 6-4, 6-3, 5-7, 6-3 triumph in his match against the Georgian? And that's the match we're showing you right now. Okay, maybe just a quick,
I think with Murray, he needed to recompose himself, Basilashvili is someone who can also, do what Tiafoe did to Tsitsipas or Murray. But that's Murray, let's not forget, that's Murray's first single match at the SW19 since 2017. 2017. So this is someone who is trying to get back into the reading. This is someone who is trying to, get it all going again. So there's a little bit of some match rustiness in there. He couldn't convert 2 match points, and he wobbled, when Basilashvili started fighting back. That's what I told you at the start, that this is our world of sports. When you blink, you start asking questions. And, when some of the lowly rated guys meet these guys that are always in the media, that are, favorites to get the odds, they also get motivated to go all the way to stun them. I think that was what Basilashvili almost tried to do to Murray, but he picked himself back up. The word I'd like to use is that he recomposed himself. It was like, what's going on? This is Wimbledon. I can't just go out like this. First round, it's not going to happen. So he picked himself back up, and then I went on to win it. Sweet victory. This is a sort of victory that motivates you. This is a sort of victory that tells you you need to get better match after match. So a shout out to Andy Murray. He needed to fight to win it, and this is sort of, you see, with the fist in the air, you can tell you that he actually loved that victory. It's a sweet one.
Okay, Austin, and let's bring Shemilere back into the mix now to talk about this issue, because Andy Murray's absence from the court for 4 years, not because of determination or lack of love, because of that injury he's had. Shemilere, what does that, do you think he can, going forward, talk about the match for one thing, and then secondly, walk us through whether you think that he has what it takes now, given that injury, to long-term get back in the top 10.
Okay.
That's Andy
First things first. We all know yesterday we were blessed with sport. This is one of the best sporting days we've had in a while. So you're trying to juggle the Euros with Wimbledon, and I tried to do so. One on the laptop, one on the TV. But as for the game, centre court around 5-6 p.m. Bachelas I honestly thought Andy Murray would lose. We know this has been he hasn't been to Wimbledon in 4 years or so, but he's been plagued with injury. Now, in the first set, Andy Murray obviously won the first 2 sets, but that first set was quite contentious. The second set was a lot closer. I think in the first set, Bachelas was trying to catch Andy Murray with just acing the serve, and then every time Andy Murray would return the serve, Bachelas on the backhand wasn't cut through. But what you need to remember, I think he's around seeded 26th or is 26th in the world, and Andy Murray right now, who hasn't played tennis, he's about 116 or so. I honestly thought Andy Murray would lose. Then we go into the third set, and Andy Murray goes 5-0 up. And everybody thinks, okay, it's done and dusted. He just did one more game and he takes it three straight sets. But then Bachelas really brings it back to 7-5. So you think, oh no, he's going to play the long game with Andy Murray. And in Britain, we want to see Andy Murray do well, especially his comeback story of plagued with several injuries. The hip injury, a very serious injury. The back injury, even had groin issues a couple months back as well. So Andy Murray as well, he has come out and said he's taken every match game by game because he says he doesn't know which could be his last. You see him, even when you see him wincing and you see him in pain, sometimes you get a bit scared, you get a bit fearful because it seems quite fragile, but I'm happy he pulled through. And like Austin said, this is a win that really, hopefully, revitalizes his career, revitalizes his mood. Because he actually said, a lot of people forget these athletes are humans. He actually said this injury, his hip injury, really affected his marriage. So even things like that, you just want to see him. Yeah, you want to see him do well. And I'm happy that he's back at SW19 and he's won his first game. He's won his first game. So yeah, I don't know how far he will go. I just want to see him go to maybe the quarters, somewhere respectable enough. But we say, okay, yeah, it's nice to see him back.
Okay, Shemilare. Austin, back to Austin now. Austin, before we go to the Draper-Djokovic match in the Wimbledon tournament, in your experience, do you think that Murray is being overly optimistic to come back from this injury? We know that Nadal came back from his injury and got back to playing at the top level. But, you know, with what you know about the sports, which I know is a lot, do you think that further down the road, this is something he can keep up?
Hopefully he does, you know. First, we didn't expect him to go away for this long, you know, when he announced that injury. I think it was that match against Sam Querrey in 2017. And then it's been 4 years already. Look, one thing you need to get going as a champ is the mentality. And when he was asked in the locker room when he lost the fourth set, he said because he wasn't mentally ready, you know, because with sports, it's an everyday thing. For athletes, it's train. It's a religion, it's a tradition, so that you get into what you are doing. And for someone who has seen success in tennis, he knows that it's not just even hard work, it's a lot of smart work mentally. So Andy Murray, first thing first, when you play against his name. That's what is keeping Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, and Rafa Nadal. They are big names, you know. So the moment you appear to play them, you first playing against their name before they even pick up a racket because you're going to go against the media and all of that. And look, Murray's British. You know, when he's winning anyway, he's British. He's not winning his cuts. You know, so with Murray, he can't go all the way because first, as Shemira said, everyone in the UK already rooting for him that he's back and he can, you know, give them some of those, you know, long victories that they've been waiting for. It's going to be tough for Olumide, but let's see how he progresses at Wimbledon. It's one step at a time. He's not pushing himself so much. It's just good to be back on the court again. You just want to have fun. But for me, I think Andy Murray is Andy Murray. As he gets to get more playing time, he can actually get back his groove.
Okay, now Jack Draper, the teenager who wanted to upset Novak Djokovic, wouldn't have been a headline. That would have been crazy if that had happened.
And then Shemilare and tennis fans in the UK will be singing and dancing because because that's one for the future. Jack Draper, you know, stunned everyone by winning that first set. It was such a delight for him to even win that first set against Novak Djokovic. He was given a wild card Olumide, to feature at this to make a debut actually at this competition, and he stunned Novak Djokovic with a confident start. You know, And that's the sort of story you want to take. That's why we say in our world of sports most times, it's not just all about winning. He's making the headline for taking a set of the admirable Novak Djokovic. So, yes, let's see what this can do for his career. I'm sure he will be wild when next he puts his name on a Google search and see the sort of, good things that would come out of him, even losing to Novak Djokovic. But for Novak Djokovic, he needed to show some champion self and stuff, picked himself back up, went on to win. Up next for him is South Africa's Kevin Anderson. So let's see how he progresses at the competition. But shout out to Jack Draper. That was a spirited performance for him in the first round.
Yeah, Shemilere, I know that tennis favors the young. The younger you are, because of the rigor of the sport. I didn't know it was that difficult, just jumping to and fro on the court.
See, tennis fans will be quite upset with you a little bit because you said just jumping. It's not just jumping. The amount of muscles and strain that you put on your body is quite strenuous. And like you said, it favors the young. But also, you have to find the perfect balance because it's not just about moving. It's very technical as well. So when you see the older players now, they're using experience and putting themselves in positions where their opposition cannot move them about the court easily because their returns and their service and things like that. So you're finding the balance with the dynamism of being youthful and the experience of playing hard shots. That's why it's such a beautiful game. So, yeah.
Good point.
It favors it, and people are excited about Jack Draper here.
Yeah. Now, let's hear from the winner of that match, Novak Djokovic. This one for Novak Djokovic. He won that tennis match against Jack Draper, running away 4-6, 6-1, 6-2, 6-2. He didn't actually run away. He lost the first set. Now we're going to take a break on sports news. When we come back, Portugal dropped by the wayside. Spain advanced at the Euro 2020s. All that and more in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Sports This Morning. And for those who thought that the Olympic Games will not hold, well, they were in for a rude awakening because now we're counting down 24 days to the Olympic Games. And I must confess, I was one of the naysayers. Not exactly a naysayer in the true sense of the term, but I was pessimistic about the thing holding because of the pandemic. But now, 24 days to go, start the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. Now, Team Nigeria had listed 61 athletes to represent the country at the Games. The Minister for Youth and Sports, Sunday Dare, said on Monday while addressing the plenary meeting with the National Sports Federation for the Games at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. Now, let me run it through. The number of games Nigeria has qualified 61 athletes for, 9 sports for the Olympics, 22 athletes in 4 events at the Paralympic Games, which are athletics 22, badminton 3, basketball 24, canoe sprint 1, gymnastics 1, rowing, yes, rowing 1, taekwondo 1, table tennis 1, wrestling 1, which sums up to 61. And for the Paralympic Games, Nigeria has, to represent the country, 5 in athletics. In powerlifting, we got 10. In power rowing, we got 1. In table tennis, we got 6, summing up to 22. Now, that's according to the minister. He further says the recent qualification of Nigeria for the women's 4x100 meters, women's 4x400 meters, and 4x400 meters mixed relay was a significant achievement, significant for the country, while still waiting for the World Athletics Organization to ratify the slots in a few days. He also said something, I'm going to quote him now. He says, the emergence of the pandemic in the first quarter affected the organizational structure of the Olympic and the Paralympic Games, and this consequently pushed international federations to review the international sporting calendar and qualification pathway for athletes in their quest to participate at the Games. So says the Minister of Youth and Sport, Sunday Dare. Now, to talk about our chances at the Olympic Games, let's bring in Austin Okonakwa once again. Hello, Austin. Austin, so what do you think? Yeah, Austin, so what do you think? So it seems set to go. Everything seems in order so far. What are your thoughts on the athletes' preparations for the games and what have you, and the list?
It's going to be a different kind of Olympics for all of the athletes that will compete at this year's Summer Games in Tokyo, just because of what the pandemic has dumped on it. But for Nigeria, 61 athletes, 9 sports, I think is what we can manage properly. I'm looking forward to seeing what Elizabeth Anyanacho can do in Taekwondo. I'm also looking forward to see what female wrestlers that are in fine form. That's what they can do also in wrestling, the Teen Olympics. So this is good time for them to prove a point, particularly Oduayo Adikuroye. Let's see what they can do. Basketball, you know the story on Team Nigeria, the D Tigers. They are in fine form now. They're getting ready. We've got players from the NBA. We've got quality everywhere in that one. It's all left to Coach Mike Brown to say I can put them together, make them a formidable team to go to Tokyo. The same with the D Tigers. Lovely super girls. Anytime, any day, they have an opportunity to step up for this country. Nigeria, they do so well with it. So in basketball, even rowing is a good opportunity for Nigeria to win a medal. Bello has been in fine form. She's been preparing. I know the Federation, they are also working so hard to ensure that rowing is a sport that can give the country medal. Table tennis also. Aaron Quadri was super excited that he eventually made a cut for the Olympics. Just probably Olufunke Oshanaike, you never say never. I was just about to say you don't know if this is going to be her last Olympics, but she'll be making a 7th appearance at the Olympics. It might just be the time where she will say, look, the wine gets sweeter as it gets older. So let's look up to what she can do also. Olajide Omotayo is a fine talent. I've been monitoring him. He's getting ready all day, every day. Table tennis can also get us talking at the Olympics. Athletics, you know the story. Team Nigeria. It just got sweeter with the team qualifying for the 4x400 mixed relays. They didn't just qualify, they qualified in style. And I love the vibes they are showing. And it all boils down to what the AFM has decided to do. Create more competitions. And shout out to Making of Champions also. So in athletics, we look good to go there and stun the world. Let's see. Olumide, 61 athletes, 9 sports. It's too early for us to start saying we'll win medals here and there. But keep the athletes in fine shape. Do what you need to do. Take care of welfare, so that when they get to Tokyo, they can also give their best.
Yes, Austin, you said the sweeter the wine is because it's older. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Have you heard that one? The older the wine, the more expensive.
Experience actually counts a lot, particularly in sport like table tennis, you know.
True.
So let's see what Olufunke Oshanaike can do. She's making a 7th appearance at the Olympics. So let me know where you're going to the Olympics for the 7th time. This time around, I believe she can make a statement.
Yeah. I took that quote off a Tupac song. You know.
But
in any case,
we're not bringing any Tupac song into the show this morning.
In any case, we know the sports where we shine. Track and field, we got that down. You know, we know that we do well in basketball. We know that we're not bad in badminton. But you mentioned rowing and canoe sprint. I don't know. What do you think our chances are? We have basically just one representative in these sports, but it's a good thing that we even have a representative to begin with.
Yeah, and that's because I follow what the Federation has been doing. The Federation led by the retired Vice Admiral Festus Pobeni is someone who is very passionate about the sports. Let's have just one person, Bello, but she has been in fine form, and it's another reminder that we need to pay more attention to canoeing and rowing, Olumide, because this is a sport where you can win about 30 medals at the Olympics. So imagine if you give it attention, you might just get 5 medals out of it. So just imagine China going to this event and out of 30 or 35, they get to win 20. That counts for you at the Olympics. It's not so big in Nigeria, but then again, it makes you ask questions because we've got riverine areas. We've got a lot of waterways where we can make good use of canoeing and rowing. So we need to put more into that infrastructure so that we can actually get persons who can get into the sport.
You took the words out of my mouth. And is it cliche to say that there are riverine areas in the country and those from those places can have youth who are encouraged along those lines of sport?
Exactly. It means we need to put some expertise into it, because most times you hear persons, for instance, oh, we have riverine areas, we have waters, how come we don't do so well in swimming at the Olympics? No, it's because you lack the technical expertise, you lack the knowledge, you lack people who can go through the training. These things, it's not just, because you have it, as for instance, there's a car or there's a plane in front of you, you can just get into it and fly it. No, you need some training, you need some certification before you can fly the plane. Same thing goes for rowing and canoeing, and that's why I'm charging the federation. I know they've been working so hard. It would have been good if we had more athletes competing at this event, but there's still more to be done. I know the federation is working. It's the appreciation of the sport. More sponsorship needs to come into it. Private participation needs to come into it also, and before you know it, boom. And it's a good way to get to the rural areas and empower young persons. So I'm rooting for rowing and canoeing anytime, any day, and I hope that our sole representative goes there. If she wins a medal, success has got a lot of friends. So if you win, persons will start following the sport.
Exactly. Now, a sport that needs no encouragement to follow is football. And whether you flew to the UK, whether you rode there, you'll find that the Euro 2020 wasn't short on drama. Now, as we turn our attention to the tournament, Switzerland beat France on penalties to progress to a quarterfinal against Spain, and an evening packed with drama in Bucharest. Spain are through to their first major tournament since 2012 after shrugging off a dramatic late Croatia comeback to prevail 5-3 after extra time, the second highest scoring game in Euro history. Austin, were you surprised?
I've covered sports so much to the point that when things happen, I just say, oh, that's what it is. Olumide, the moment you try acting like you know football, it will embarrass you, it will humble you. That's what football does, And if you ask around, I'm the guy that loves oddity. So I wouldn't have said Switzerland would beat France. Of course, France, they're world champions. They've got talent here and there. But when you look at the way they lost it, you will know football just wanted Switzerland to win. Switzerland lost the penalty. A goal was cancelled for offside. They were losing 3-1, came back 3-3, went on to score 5 penalties. And the man that has been having a bad tournament, Kylian Mbappe, that you'd expect will go on to score his own penalty, lost. That was just football. That was just football saying, no, France, go home. I want Switzerland to stay. So it's crazy, what we've seen at the Euros. Netherlands out, France out. Makes me remember that egg-breaking lady that was saying also with her eggs, she just wasted eggs, because the moment you think football, it will humble you. So that's just what we saw, and that's what we've seen at this Euros. The other big teams must be careful. Spain, they were so close. They tried to show some complacency. They blinked, and it was 3-3. Needed a Morata magic in extra time to take out Croatia. So it is what it is. The French team packed to go on at the Euros, but now they've packed their baggage and they will be going back home.
Our dear Shimilore Adenikon is also still in London with us on the show this morning. Shimilore, Austin said that if we ask around, we'll find that he's someone that likes oddities. I'll be sure to ask around, Austin. But Shimilore, were you less surprised? Yeah, exactly. Were you less surprised by Spain's, by France's exit than Portugal's?
Yeah, I think the world of football was more surprised by France's exit, especially me. I love France. As those close to me know. So it's quite humbling. Like Austin said, once you act like you know football, you will get humbled and you get made look like a fool. But the way France went out, again, like we said earlier with Tsitsipas, it was a sense of complacency. Now, France, their first game against Germany, beating Germany 1-0, it was quite efficient. Then they played a stalemate with Hungary. I think they finished 2-2 or so, or they played 0-0 with Hungary, and then they played the 2-2 with Portugal, sorry. So France hasn't been exceptional this tournament. Going into this knockout game, everyone expected them to beat Switzerland because they too haven't been exceptional. But Didier Deschamps in the first half going with the back three because he's blighted with injury in the left back position. It didn't work. They went 1-0 down, and France looked like a completely different team in the second half. But France as champions, if you're 3-1 up with 10 minutes to go, you expect them to take it home. I'm sure, like I said, there was many spots going on. At 3-1, some people changed the channel. And you came back and you find out it's 3-3 and you're in absolute shock. But France going home is quite humbling. Portugal, like you mentioned Olumide, Portugal as well, they're the current European champions. So we've lost the world champions, we've lost the European champions. So we're going to get a new champion anyway. We're going to get a new... No one is going to retain anything. But Belgium beating Portugal as well. Portugal were better than Belgium on the night, but Belgium were efficient. Belgium did what they had to do. That's what football does for you. And so... Go on, sorry.
All right, it's okay. Does that take away from what Switzerland did? You know, when the underdog beats the champ, people talk about the champ. Talk about the champ.
Yeah.
They go up in arms for the champ. They run around the champ. But somebody beat them.
You're right. You're right.
Was it a fluke?
No, Switzerland deserved their accolades, and whether it was a fluke or not, they did it. So you're right. I should give Switzerland their credit. They were fantastic. Granit Xhaka was the general in the midfield. Granit Xhaka and Pogba of France, they were both very, very efficient in the midfield. Each taking turns to make splitting passes. They were involved in everything, defensively and offensively as well. So Switzerland were very, very good. For me, I just pray that this victory over France means something, that they go into the next round against Spain and they carry on this form. They don't just go and they just get outplayed by Spain. So I think Switzerland were fantastic. I think they too, not that they were shocked, but with the way they grew into the game, when they got to 3-3, they thought, yes, there's no way that they're going to lose this. They're not going to qualify. And yeah, so also I wanted to give a quick shout out to Spain as well, who started very poorly within the tournament, very dull, very flat against their game with Sweden when they played a 0-0. It was very, and then the second game as well, they failed to score or they failed to excite anyone. But they were fantastic in their last two games, 5 goals in both games, and they were exceptional when showing great skill and showing great mentality, going 1-0 down to an own goal, to a horrendous mistake by Unai Simon. It was Croatia as well, bringing it to 3-3. Obviously, Luka Modric might be his farewell tour this tournament. This might be his last tournament, but Spain as well, quite exciting, growing into it. And this is the thing about the big teams, Olumide. When it gets to the crunch time, when it gets to the knockout stages, this is when they really show that they're the big teams.
Speaking of the knockout stages, let's take a look at what to expect. And Austin, you're going to come in just a moment. There we go. We got England, we got Germany. Now that's the mano a mano, the traditional rivalry, European rivalry of England versus Germany. Should be interesting to watch. And also Sweden versus Ukraine. Austin, which of these matches would you pay bottom dollar to watch?
Definitely it's England. It's England, Germany, and some way, somehow, maybe because I'm now in the UK, I'm just hoping that England will get on in the competition. But
Sorry to interrupt you, Austin. Is there a perception that the English team are overvalued? That just because many of them play in the English Premier League, Harry Kane and what have you, and all of them, that that it's just a lot of that there's more noise being made about them than should be.
But then you disagree, Olumide, because they're professionals. These are professional footballers. They play in top leagues. I don't care whether it's in England.
But what about their results?
But you also said the same thing about.
What about their results? Their results. They were beaten by. They were held to a draw by. Is it Scotland?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's a familiar foe, so they know themselves. Who hasn't struggled except Belgium? Almost all the top teams have struggled at this competition. Spain has struggled, Portugal struggled, and they are out now. The Netherlands struggled, they are out.
But saw
France.
The players,
France thought they had it going far. France also struggled, even from the group stage.
The pedigree of the English players against the Scottish team.
We beating
in
them.
club
And that's
football.
the point, Olomide, because when these smaller teams meet the big guys, they get motivated, and that's the angle I always focus on in my analysis. That's why I said I love oddity. For instance, if you put Switzerland and France, everyone will go towards France winning. But that's motivation alone for the Swiss team, and that's what they used to go all the way to eventually beat the French team. So it's football against Scotland. I'm sure if you give Gareth Southgate another opportunity to play that game, we'll approach it differently, and England might go on to win. But hey, it's football where if you think you know what's going on, as I said, it will get you humbled. So I'm sure they must have learned from most of the things that happened to them in the group phase. Talking about England, same with Germany, because Germany didn't have it all good, lost their first match, had to labor for the second, and then fought to even draw their last match against Hungary. So nobody should come up now and just tell me that Germany is going to have it easy against the English team. They're both going to play football because they've not had a fantastic competition. Maybe from this knockout stage, whoever advances will not get into the groove. But it's difficult because both sides need to advance. So we're going to see a beautiful game of football. Germany, we know them, they're compact, they're the quality side. I think on paper you'd even tip them to go on to win, but shame on you if you do that against this young English side who are willing to get all the way. And again, it's being played at Wembley. So we're going to go out there and make some noise and see if we can confuse this German team.
Shemilore, I know what Austin is talking about. And there's grit, there's determination on the one hand, but then there's experience and talent on the other. What do you think?
When it comes to,
you know that people want the English team to win, right? Because some of our favorite players in our favorite clubs all play in the English national team.
A lot of people, yeah, you're right. A lot of people want the English teams to win and just the English team to do well, just to at least thrive for once. But and going back to the point you made with Austin, in terms of it never seems like England warrant the hype. Obviously on paper, but football's not paid on paper. But it never warrant the hype in which they put out. But this is a big test for England. This is a very big test because countries like Germany and, for example, Italy, these are massive footballing nations. No matter their squad, within the decade, they always compete. So even though we're saying Germany's squad right now is not as scary as it's been previously, it's still Germany. It's still Germany at the end of the day, and they will always be efficient. So I expect this is the first time England, for me, are favorites. England are favorites to win this game. If we put both teams on paper and the bookies have England as favorites. For me personally, I can't call this game. England fans are not so much. They're not confident, but they're.
Hold on, Shemilore. Let's take a quick recess, a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us in sports this morning. Now, that was Gareth Southgate and Harry Kane for the English national team on their performance at Euro 2020. We're going to be talking about that for just a second with Austin Okunakpan and Shemilore, who are standing by. Austin, what do you think? Methinks Gareth Southgate has come under a lot of criticism as far as his team selection is concerned. Ergo, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Liverpool, late call-up. And everybody was up in arms. Why isn't he calling him up? And then at the end of the day, he called him up. Other selections as the match progresses, when his team are playing. What are your thoughts? You still there?
There is no team, Olumide, no team in the world with talent that you will not struggle to make selections. It's very important that football fans know this. When Leroy Sané was left out of the German squad for the World Cup, everyone was shouting. But the coach explained. They said, look, who can I drop? Same thing. Persons will say, oh, he picked 3 right backs. He picked 4 right backs. Talking about Gareth Southgate and this English team. I said, you know them as right backs, but do you know in what capacity they can play? There was a time someone was arguing with me right here in the UK that Bukayo Saka is more efficient as a left back. I could always argue that he's always better as a forward player because that's what we see at Arsenal. So these coaches know their players better than we do. And most of these players understand that the more you're versatile on that field of play, that's when you get more opportunities to play. There are some players that can play in central midfield, they can play central defense, that can also play as a forward wing player. So the coaches spend more time with the players. And who says they cannot tweak it? When Thierry Henry came to Arsenal, Wenger told him, I don't care whether you're a point man from Juve, I'm going to put you from the wings and then you will run to the middle and score goals. And Thierry Henry was efficient. That's what Gareth Southgate is trying to tell everyone. Calm down. Yes, Trent is a talent. Who wasn't dropped in that team that wasn't a talent? They're all professional footballers. They play in the English Premier League, the most followed league in the world, and it's competitive. So he has a point. But what I'm just thinking that Gareth Southgate needs to do is, it's difficult, but he needs to take his eyes off the press. Answer questions when you're at presses and then ignore the rest and just concentrate on your team. Because he's got a very, very important job to do today against Germany. And it all boils down to team selection again. The sort of players that he puts out there will determine what's going to do against the Germans tonight.
Okay, let's see what's happening in Copa America, another great football tournament in South America. And for Argentina, there were 4-1 winners over Bolivia. Lionel Messi was there, and Uruguay defeated Paraguay 1-0. In that Uruguay-Paraguay match was Edison Cavani, a penalty from him that sealed a 1-0 win over Uruguay. But that's the Argentina match now. Messi passed to Mascherano as Argentina's most capped international on Monday when that match was played. He scored twice as they beat Bolivia 4-1 to set up the quarterfinal against Ecuador. So next it's going to be Argentina versus Ecuador. Bolivia out the door. Messi was on fire and he was in fine form in his 148th appearance for Argentina. And it was his sublime pass that set up Alejandro Gomez to volley home the opening goal after 5 minutes. He doubled their lead, that is Messi, from the penalty spot just after the half-hour mark, then made it 3-0 again shortly after halftime when he ran on to a through ball from Sergio Aguero and lobbed Carlos Lampe. Now, so let's... Austin, what do you think of this match? Do you think that the jinx is broken and at the end of the day, Messi will finally lead his country to continental glory?
This is what we always get every edition of the Copa America. They go all the way and then they get disappointed. But then, as I've always said, COVID-19 has reshuffled the world. So it's like we're starting afresh again. So whoever is more focused, whoever is more driven can just go out there to win it. I love the way they executed the last match. And winning 4-1 is very dominant. It's what will confuse your opponents when they go on to, look or try to monitor you for the next match. And it's Ecuador that they have next. Argentina all day, every day. Talk about the Copa America, you expect them to pull through. You expect Brazil, also Paraguay, lost to Uruguay. Uruguay had another threat also at the Copa America. But let's see, there's just so much pressure on Messi to lead his country to win this competition. And when pressure sets in like this, distractions are just by the door to also step in. But they're going on strong. They're going on strong, and they look good to go on to win this time around. 4-1 against Bolivia is the sort of result you need to go into the quarterfinals.
Thanks, Austin, and we'll take that as your final word on the show today. Thank you so much for being a part of the show as usual.
Thank you so much, Illumide. Good to be on the show. Good to see you again. And let's keep talking sports. Thank you.
Now, Shemilore, what do you think of Messi's performance and the Uruguay-Paraguay match as your parting shot?
I think we might finally get to see Messi pick up the Copa America. I feel like like Austin said, every time it comes to this part of the tournament, we're like, okay, is this finally going to be it? Because the Ronaldo fans have been telling us Ronaldo's won the Euros. Messi hasn't done anything at international level for his team, for his country. But I think it's set up beautifully now with Argentina finishing first in Group A and Brazil finishing first in Group B. So we're set up for a Copa America. Obviously, we're going into the knockouts, quarterfinals, but it's set up perfectly that they can only meet in the finals now. So I feel like Messi, them going into beating Bolivia, sorry, 4-1. I feel like this is good. It's good momentum to take into the knockout stages, and I'm excited to see how the knockout stages hold up.
Thanks so much, Shemilore Adenikon, speaking to us from London. Thanks for your contribution on the show today, as usual.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And Austin Okonakwan, much appreciated as well, our Channels Television correspondent in the UK. I'm Olumide Macaulay, sitting in for Sissy and Tayo on Sports This Morning. Have a great day. See you next time.